We in the house. So since screen, let me share this on my Facebook.
Well, that's my ex. That's what she got.
Okay, I got it. I don't. Oh yeah.
Complex making y'all believe they selling albums like that. Chief Keef house would not have went into foreclosure if he had finances like that.
I don't know, man.
First,
I don't know.
they throw them niggas a nice car, a couple gold chains.
The game, the game. He just put like $3 million in the weed company. You know.
Okay. Just like Soldier Boy bought a plane.
Soldier Boy, yep, They said he bought a plane.
Yo.
Oh, there we go. In the building with your mama and your children. Yes, the Connect 360. We are tuning in. And yes, you are. No, ain't nothing wrong with your screen. Yes, there's two black men that you looking at doing positive things.
Cool.
Yeah. Tune in, y'all. Fresh Air Network. If you're watching this right now, you want to put in comments, make sure Fresh Air Network on Facebook.
Can they see that at the top in social media? Helpful or hurtful? The questions.
Yeah.
They can read them. So those are some of the topics we're going to be talking about today. So, feel free, again, leave a comment or, state what your perspective is.
Yep. And you can also call in. You can call in. The lines are open at 773-263-2584. Again, at 773-263-2584. And tune in. And in fact, you can see it right there on the Facebook feed. So tune into that as we're going live right now. It's cold in Chicago right now. It's December 21st, Christmas season. You know what's crazy, man? Yeah, I was thinking about before I came in. You know how Chicago will change your whole attitude towards weather. Like today, it's like 26 degrees. I was walked outside. I said, man, it's pretty warm outside today.
Right.
I told one of my family members that live down in Florida. I say it's warm. They say what's the weather? I say 26 degrees. They say
all last week it was like negative what 2 or 3.
And it's also when that wind hits your behind.
Oh man, that wind chill effect.
That wind's coming, boy. It's a whole different ball game. For real.
Ain't no joke,
Let's
man.
get into these topics. What we talking
Let's
about?
get into it. So yeah, today, man, the show is we getting into the media. You know, the question is, are we living in the matrix right now? Are we under a trance? Are we being duped? Are the questions. And I want to get into this right now specifically because, you know, media is everywhere. And I was looking at some statistics. Can you hear me pretty good?
Yeah.
It's a little better. I was looking at some statistics on some sites, and they were talking about how kids spend about 9 hours a day on average using media. They said 50% of children were reporting, and they were doing some studies, that the TV is on constantly in their house. Like the TV never stops playing in the house.
Well, TV, cell phones, you know, smartphones, everything. So all that's, because a lot of kids, you know, when we say media, we talking about all platforms, social media, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now we're gonna go into all platforms, but I'm just going through some of the statistics.
Sometimes they're on the phone and watching. They got the
this
TV
is
on.
true. So it's like the media is nonstop. If you got the TV on all day, plus you got your phone, plus you know you're walking outside or you're listening to your music. You know, I mean it's nonstop. But also, it's funny because they were interviewing some of these kids. Now, Kavan, are we using the video or not?
We can.
No.
Which one you want? But then we have to compress it, right? You didn't. It was a certain area you wanted to highlight, right?
Yeah, it was just this one clip I wanted to show in the video, and we don't have to pull it up. I mean, I could just talk about it and say what was going on in it. And basically, they were interviewing these children. They had about 10 different kids, and they were showing them pictures of people, like famous people.
Right.
They were showing them pictures of Abraham Lincoln, showing them pictures of different folks, and most of the kids, they didn't know who they were. Now, it was one picture they showed.
What was the age group of the children?
These age group, I would say anywhere from, I'll say 6 to 12.
Okay.
In that group. And so about 10, they were showing, looking at this one picture. None of the kids could recognize the picture. And then the guy turned the picture and showed it was a picture of Jesus Christ. Right.
Everybody knew who that was. Right?
So none of the kids could recognize that they had the white Jesus, and none of the kids recognized the white Jesus. But they were looking at some other pictures that they did recognize, of which was the celebrities, right? So they put up a picture of like Michael Jackson.
They knew who that was. And
they all knew Michael Jackson, right? And so as I'm looking through it, I thought it was interesting how, you know, how is it that we live in a society where even in 2010, you got people like Michael Jackson is more popular, more well-known than a Jesus Christ?
Michael's probably the most popular person that probably walked the earth.
But why is that?
Because of media. Because of the narrative of the media.
The media.
The ability to change history, to make whatever's paramount as history what you want it to be. So you don't think of Abraham Lincoln.
Right.
They don't think of Abraham Lincoln as somebody important, but they think of entertainment and Michael Jackson because he's a star. He's been on TV. And
he was extremely talented.
Yeah.
Genius.
But the storyline is just being told to us where even the history of the portrait of Jesus Christ, that's not being shown a lot at all, unless, you know, when we was growing up, it used to be in our grandmother's, well, it was in my grandmother's and my mom's, you know, house, and we was in debt.
Had the blonde hair, blue eyed Jesus
the whole get down. So I say all that to say that we have been indoctrinated in that history because we had pictures that were actually staples in our neighborhood and or in in the front lobe of our mind because it was in our houses, and we, and you know, in that case,
she had Kennedy up too, and
you had those
the Kennedy and Martin Luther King.
She had the exactly.
Martin in the middle, right?
Exactly.
Jesus over there.
And what's interesting about it is, I think back to the 1980s when Michael was at his height, right? The Thriller album, Bad album, when everybody wanted to wear the Thriller jacket, right? Everybody had the Michael Jackson outfits. They had the gloves.
Jerry Curl.
He had people walking around the hood with glitter. We wanted to put glitter shoes, a penny loafer shoes on. He made penny loafers hot.
You said glitter shoes?
You know, with the glitter socks.
You thinking of the night? Yeah, that's
Well, okay.
No,
that's
that's
like
80s. That's 80s. That's 80s, Mike. Right.
That's late 80s with the glitter socks when he first came out with
generation. That. All those commercials. Right.
Now, I say this to say, many times people don't realize how important media plays to people want to copycat that, especially the younger generation. People want to copy what the media is putting in front of us consistently. The media makes certain stuff cool. And it's really deep, even on a subconscious level, because think about it. If you're watching them, have y'all ever experienced this? Have you ever watched a movie, and in the movie somebody was laughing, and it made you laugh just because they was laughing in the movie, or somebody got hurt and they got punched and it made you kind of cringe a little bit, and you're just watching it. Mm-hmm. You ever felt that way in the movie?
Of course.
Yeah.
And it's also amazing. And one thing I was looking at the same article, it spoke about how ignorance on fire is more powerful than knowledge on ice. Meaning, if you know how to capture certain emotions, and then you know how to put the rhythms behind it, you know how to put a certain tone behind it, and you repeat something over and over again, it can make people believe in something and pay attention to it, even if what they're looking at is not even true. They pay attention to it and they begin to act like that, even if it's not true. And the reason why I'm going in this direction, because a lot of our show today, we're going to be going over media, but we're going to go deep into the hip hop aspect of it too. And I have this one photo. I'm gonna show it, put it up to y'all. I don't know if you had it, Kavan. Do you have the one where it has like the Snoop Dogg and Jay-Z on there? If not, I'll just pull it up for y'all can see it really quick. But what was interesting about it, okay, here it is right here. So I'll pull this one up.
Right.
So on this photo, it's a picture of, you got Dr. Dre on top, you got Snoop Dogg, you got Puffy.
Right.
And on the right side of them, it has some white men that you probably never ever heard of, right? And these men are actually the guy, like for example, you got Snoop Dogg, it's worth about $100 million. But then you got the white guy who actually signed him, who's actually running the companies.
Are you going to turn around so they can see
David
it?
Geffen. Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the picture to make it bigger so people can see it. This guy's worth almost $4 billion. Right? And then you got Dr. Dre works with Jimmy Iovine. I don't know if you can see. I don't know if that's
I didn't know what the picture was.
I don't know if it's too small or what.
I'll bring it up.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
So should he keep it turned around?
Nah, I'll bring it.
Yeah. So in this picture, you got Dr. Dre, and he's next to Jimmy Iovine. Then he's got next to another guy who's the CEO. His name's like Lucien Grange. Then you got Snoop Dogg, who's worth about $100 million. He's next to a guy who's David Geffen, who's worth about $4 billion. Then you got NWA, and you got Jerry Heller, Jay-Z next to Leor Cohen. And so if you look at it, all of these black folks, if we think about their lyrics, think about a lot of their music that they talk about. It's a lot of violence. It's also a lot of being misogynistic. It's also a lot of things that are really stereotypes from white men on how they view black guys. And so the question is the hip hop industry, is the culture, right now what we see in media, is this really black people and how we talk in the hood or in our cities, or is this the ideas of white people and how they project and how they view black people, the stereotypes?
I have it up.
You got it up now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I mean, we all know what it is. So, is it art imitating life or life imitating art? So, initially, the origins of the whole hip hop thing, it was us expressing ourselves. Like Chuck D said, hip hop was a CNN, of the hood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now it's like the music is controlling the hood or brainwashing the hood to some degree. So instead of it being the other way around. So, you know, I think it's, you know, some type of internal thing going on right now in the hip hop industry, you know, because a lot of the other art and it's unbalanced because we'll say in the 80s and certain parts of the 90s, you know, you had rappers that, you know, use profanity or misogynistic or, you know, or talked about violence, but you also had another side of
you had a balance there.
Yeah, balance. They talked about positivity, you know, positive things in the community, stop the violence or whatever.
You might have a Rakim or a KRS-One.
Right. And they, Public Enemy, these worldwide cats, you know, toured the planet. And then you had cats like Too Short, NWA. But it was a balance. I listened to both sides. Now it's just slanted. You know, it's pretty much all drill music or turn up music that you're hearing on the radio. So it's like really who's calling the shots. And then the same list, if you listen to the radio, the same songs being played over and over again, the same 21, 22, 23 songs over and over and over. So and we don't own the radio stations or the record company. So, you know, who's really calling the shots? You know?
I mean, I think it's just interesting that some of the most powerful song or popular songs are songs that they either promoting being a drug addict nowadays. You know, you got the Young Thugs or being either a pimp or you're being, you know, promiscuous. And I'm not saying it's anything necessarily. I'm not saying we should stop listening to it because I love me some of the same music. But where is the balance? But what were you finna say, Kavan?
In order to establish some kind of balance, you have to have some kind of control. And one of the things that I hear when we're talking about this is the fact that we're not necessarily creating avenues or infrastructures so we can take back our media, so we can actually tell our own story. So we can go back and forth about the music, who's to blame, who is over whom, and it still goes back to what are we going to do for ourselves? And what that means to me is one of the main reasons why I created the Fresh Air Network and the podcast and the studio and the fact that we can live stream things. It's a shameless plug.
Definitely.
The fact is that we get to have a media outlet where individuals who matter, most importantly, and has some of the same backgrounds that you may have, you hear their perspectives, and it's not necessarily somebody that is so like 100 degrees separation, meaning like you love Will Smith, you love your actors, you love your rappers, but how often and how many times are you going to actually interact with that individual? And what the media has done is put these individuals on such a pedestal that there's no correspondence after you like somebody. So if you like Beyonce, for instance, or, you know, I don't like using her, but if you like your favorite artist, how often are you really interacting and hearing the characteristics, the background, the storyline, their innermost thoughts? This is why social media is actually taking that place. When Twitter, if there's something's on your mind, or when you go to Facebook, what does it say? It says, what's on your mind? So until we start to understand the infrastructure that is behind changing people's thoughts, consciously and subconsciously, then we'll always be forever, and it's going to get worse. I'm seeing it. I'm talking about as far as the young kids who didn't know Abraham Lincoln as opposed to Michael Jackson. So we're getting so far away from what is real and what's not real, what is actually being told to us as the truth, and we're accepting it as the truth, and we keeping that in our minds as history. So I think that, like I said, until we start to tell our own narrative and our own storyline, then we're gonna forever be blind.
So now you're talking about us creating our own platforms, which, like you said, we have some of them already. Now the challenge is, how do we then expose that, make it cool as well? And what are some examples? Like, are there, I mean, in y'all opinion, like, are there, what rap albums or artists do y'all think is really a good example of having a positive balance today that probably doesn't get enough shine?
On a commercial, but he's really not so commercial, just coming into his own. I think Chance the Rapper is one of the...
He's independent, right?
He's independent. That's one thing. The second thing is that I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday about the value of him taking marketing objectives on a practical level. What does that mean? That means that when he started putting poster boards on the streets, by the bus stops, he had a couple of big billboards.
So guerrilla marketing. He went back to the basics.
It's the basic, but it's still effective. Meaning, you subconsciously, when you're driving down Dan Ryan or any interstate, you are looking at those actual billboards. You may not pay attention to them, but if you're going down that road every single day, which most people are going back and forth to work, then you have the ability to 365 days or however many days you're going back and forth, have the ability to ingrain a picture and a name in somebody's mind. And then if you follow it up with data on the video side, because just Chance the Rapper, for instance, when you go look him up on YouTube, he has a lot of things that he has done like 2-3 years ago and nothing too current.
So speaking of that, though, so you're talking about marketing. Why? You know what I noticed, though? A lot of black businesses usually don't put a lot of emphasis on their marketing. I mean, you have some who do, but it's very few that really invest that money into marketing, even whatever it is they're doing.
You're correct, man. And that's something that I found out, and I apologize for cutting you off. It's something that I found out really when I started doing this network, right? And I would go to even Culture Connection. When I would go in there and I would see Justin, I would come and see him every now and again. Justin, I would tell him what I got going on and all that good stuff. But I will always revisit that store 2 or 3 times a year just because I wanted to know what was going on. That's one thing. Second thing is that I really enjoyed that store. I still enjoy the store. Then I would go into a restaurant, let's say shameless plug Mickey's or which is a black-owned business in Hyde Park that got great food. I started talking to the owner or the owners, whoever it was, basically. And it dawned on me, like, I love this place. And then I asked him and several other business owners, even Truth on 39th, excuse me. Do you guys have a commercial? Do you want a commercial? Are you even marketing the days in which you have certain, in this case, on the restaurant side, your days in which you have certain cuisines that or any of that stuff. My point is that, and then the last part is that I want the listeners and us to think about, it's not just black folks or black businesses. You think about when you watch NBA and I watch Bulls and it be on Channel 9 or CSN, right? And then you look at the actual local commercial that comes on while the Bulls are actually playing. 9 times out of 10, it's going to either be a lawyer,
insurance company,
but it's an insurance company on the low end. It's like auto insurance,
right? Basic stuff, right?
And then you also have car salesmen. They dominate. So I'm saying that to say you have millions of businesses in Chicago, and you on Channel 9, which is a local channel that gives certain amount of airspace to local people. And the best that you guys can do is actually have these cheesy commercials, especially the car salesman commercials. And so my point is that it's not just it's something that I think that's ridiculous in Chicago, and the infrastructure of entrepreneurs understanding the marketing aspects of how to market their business. So it dawned on me, like, if you don't have a commercial, then how are you going to stay in business? If a commercial come on at 6 o'clock and you hungry, it'll actually remind you, like, oh shit,
maybe I need to go over here and grab something to eat, right?
So,
speaking of that, and I don't mean to cut you off, but you're making me think. When I think of marketing, I think of one word, and I think of the word communication.
Sure.
Right? It's your message to the world. And it almost makes me think about, too, when it comes to the black community, some of we need some help with even our communication skills.
Sure.
Whether that be dealing with each other, just communicating and expressing how we feel, having respect for each other.
Yeah.
And I think that spills over into the marketing.
And with communication, that goes both ways. So we need some more skills at our listening, some improvements in our listening skills.
Listening skills.
Because we think communication is just having the gift of gab, getting up on the stage, blah, 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 this, that, and other. But if you're not listening, it's two sides of the conversation.
Which is,
giving and receiving. That's the prefix, communication. Has a duality to it. So
which is
not
why
a good communicator if you're not a good listener.
Which is why, piggybacking on what you're saying, I'll see many black businesses. They're selling. They have products that don't reflect what the community really wants. They're trying to sell what they want to sell, but they're not listening to their market,
right?
And adjusting. There's like, hey, I want to sell like I'm not gonna say the person, but I was in the store today. Someone's store who went out of business, and I'm looking through their back because they had some old inventory. I'm going through their inventory, and man, none of this. The inventory was just all over the place. I mean, it was like some little drinky dink. They had some combs, like dollar store combs, and it was just really, really rinky dink. And it just made me think like what was the game plan or the strategy behind like why would a person come to this store? I see why they went out of business. Because it wasn't clear on how this was relating with the community, and then some stuff I saw, I'm like, oh, this could probably sell if it was put on Craigslist or maybe it was put online and marketed a certain way. But I think that goes back to the listening skills and then communication.
Well, when you listen to somebody, well, first of all, marketing, what came to mind when you start to give your definition, it talks about the transaction of sales. Transaction of sales, and I'm a steal Brian Tracy's definition. He said it's the exchange of enthusiasm. The exchange of enthusiasm means that enthusiastically you have to understand what the person may be looking for, may be wanting. You just can't be enthusiastic about anything and talk to somebody and think that you're going to hit the mark if you have no understanding of hearing them, understanding their business, understanding what the possible needs are, then filling that need with enthusiasm with that person to make sure that both of you guys are winning in this particular transaction. So if you qualify that example and you transfer it to pictures, words, and video, then we are so far off the game because the exchange of enthusiasm of communication is not necessarily our number one study that we're doing. It's like you either copycatting somebody else's way or you don't necessarily know your original thought.
Now I'm going to combat that a little bit because I agree, but I'm going to be the devil's advocate a little bit. And even against myself, I think black community, we actually can listen really well, but depending on who it comes from.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Okay, because certain media, we can be gossiping all day about Kim Kardashian or what Kanye was next to Trump. We can gossip because we listening to that really well. It's almost, you know what I mean? But but we take our cue. The question is, who are we taking our cues from? And who are the people that we establish? They deem that their words are valuable enough to listen to, and somebody else, I'm just gonna. I don't hear you.
But that's a part of listening, though. So we back to square one. I hear what you're saying, but you have the ability to be around somebody. They're talking, and you're not listening. You have that ability. Some men do it more so than others with their women, and vice versa. The point being is that whatever's going on around you, you turn on the listening. And if you are listening to music, media outlets that are not necessarily in your best interest, then shame on you. So listening cannot happen unless you turn that on as a sense that you're doing. So it is.
Now, I want to take it a little bit deeper, though.
Okay.
Because the human brain has two minds. You got the conscious mind and you got the subconscious. The subconscious is like someone you can be having You can be asleep at night and have a commercial being played in your head. I mean, being played on TV. You're not consciously listening to it, but that message is still going deep that, McDonald's is the place to go. As if you're a kid, you already know McDonald's is a happy place to go because you've seen the commercial. Even if you're not listening to it intentionally, it's just in the background. And just that subconscious mind, it's like a video camera. It's always recording. And I'm of the mindset that one of the reasons why we turn our minds on and off or who we going to listen to is because what's being programmed in our subconscious mind as what we feel is important.
Now about each other, what's being programmed in our subconscious mind? And that someone else outside of us is more intelligent from another culture. Because we have a hard time listening to each other. I'm talking about black folks.
Can I possibly add some kind of definition to subconscious and consciousness? Because
some of us are so-called conscious, but we unconscious. So you got a lot of unconscious, conscious people walking around. That's awake but brain dead. Go ahead.
Well, subconscious, for the listeners out there, my understanding is that you have conscious and you have subconscious. The two dynamics is one is more physical and the other one is more non-physical. So the non-physical part, which you're talking about subconscious, it is your what's called, let me give an example. It's like your computer. Okay, so the RAM in your computer is the memory, correct? And then you also have the computer that you're seeing it, you can type on it. That's your conscious. The conscious is
and that RAM can never be deleted. Even when you delete it and throw it in a trash can, it can still be recovered on that computer, on that hard drive. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just wanted to throw that in there.
So let me give you
Y'all gotta listen to each other.
So let me give you the example of what he's saying is, although you may know that the computer is right there, you may not know where the memory came from that's actually being administered on the computer. So subconsciously means that all of your thoughts that you've ever had, both seen, understood, or not understood, meaning like subconsciously when you're someplace and you see the golden arches on your in your peripheral vision, your mind is still picking that up, and it's being stored someplace. This storage is a place where your memory lives. As your memory is living there, it is actually stored in a fashion in which consciously, meaning your five senses, what you see, smell, taste, and all that good stuff, has actually labeled before it went into storage. So if somebody, are you watching TV and you like some star that you like, and then that's why they are the spokesman for that specific product, they're hoping that since you like that actual artist or that famous person, that you will connect that good feeling with that product.
That's why I started drinking Pepsi. The Jacksons had those Pepsi commercials out in the 80s. This is back then.
Yeah.
I don't mess with it anymore, but,
So the powers that be knows this, and the powers that be, I'm speaking about the individuals that are in control of the media. They know this philosophy, how things are actually transferred to people and then made into a belief and then made into their character, and then after you make it to their character, then it has the ability to become the culture, which we was talking about last week. So just a light note.
Like what you just said, the last sentence could be put on repeat, because that might have even went over some people's head.
Which one?
The character, you said they study this.
Yes. The powers that be study
and
this.
They make it into what?
They make it into your culture.
Right.
Versus a thought, then they make you connect the thought with something that they feel that you like or have some kind of emotion about. You connect that emotion with that person and or product. They take that product, they actually turn around and start to make you think that it was your original thought on how you felt about that product. You go into the store, you look at the product, and for a split second, you may not think that you thought about it, but you thought about that artist or that famous person that was connected to it. And now you have etched in deeper a belief system.
Right.
And that belief in that product and that person and that concept, and then that product and that person and that concept becomes a character that you bring on as your own. As you bring it on as your own, then it has the ability to, like you said.
So are you also saying our culture has been programmed, in particular African Americans?
All culture is a byproduct of programming.
Okay. So since we don't seem to be doing as well as other cultures in the majority of these fields we're talking about, do you think that we're targeted even more as far as with this programming? Because there's some deprogramming going on.
Was that that was a rhetorical question?
I mean, we're getting hit from all
What?
angles: television, negative images, music. A lot of different angles.
Well, I mean, if you look at history, I mean, at one point in time, black slaves weren't even allowed to read.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they knew the power of, once you're able to read, then you can write. And once you can write, you can be able to control what other people think.
Sign your papers.
So, yeah, exactly.
Right.
Sign your own paper. And a lot of people,
write your own paper.
A lot of people don't realize the power of media and just communication. I mean, to me, that's everything, because media, we were talking about this last week, how media is nothing but a frequency. If we broke it down scientifically, all sound waves, all visual waves are frequencies, and frequencies then, now that if you can control the frequency, you can control a person's mood. You can control everything if they got a lot of life or if they walking around like zombies, Yeah,
it's a guy that I used to study. His name is Bert Goldman.
Mm-hmm.
And Bert Goldman was talking about, he did extensive study on frequency. And he actually did such a study on it that he created his own, of course, CD and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But Bert Goldman was talking about, after he studied frequencies, then he started to understand how music started to have energy in it. Let's just say that. It had energy in it. And actually, Wayne Dyer did a study on that, or did an example. And he was basically, he had a CD and told the person to hold it up, and he tipped it over, and but he gave him a CD that was positive, and the person that held that same CD didn't move. And he was speaking about the energy in which everything is energy. Let's just go and say that, all right? Because although we see things physically, which is the conscious side, which is the sister of subconscious, it has energy. And
I gotta be the sister. I can't be the brother. Okay.
Well,
okay.
If they sisters, we didn't know.
Okay, so
we didn't even say if subconscious was the brother or the sister, right?
I want to ask this question.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the rap, since we talking about this rap music, top rap albums out right now, Billboard charts.
Okay.
So we know what's being pushed to our youth, what's kind of being force fed on them. But the number one album right now in the country on the hip hop charts or the rap charts is J. Cole. To me, that's positive. So is that being pushed?
But hold on. No, keep going. Ask your question. I'm sorry. Ask your question.
To our youth, or is that being pushed just to the masses? Because it seems like, I'm not really hearing a lot of, unless you're kind of on a so-called aware side, you. Then number 3, a brother named Tech Nine. His album, The Storm. So
The Storm.
Tech Nine is an independent artist. He actually made the Forbes list, I think a couple of years ago. Who in the hood do they know who Tech Nine is? Okay, hold on 1 second. Ab-Soul, he's number 6. None of these turn up rappers that we saying they're not in the. Then So who are they being targeted to? Who's if a brother's worth $20 million and J. Cole, he's paid too, it's like, some of the cats in the hood need to be following these artists because evidently it's a demand.
Well, let's go a little deeper into who the demographics is that's actually buying.
Let's go a little deeper.
These products.
Right.
And
so who's buying these products?
Those are hardcore analytics that they can actually quote unquote prove, right?
Right.
And we all know that Blockbuster and a bunch of other mainstream media distributors have been canceled, or they. So I say all that to say that it's some other ethnic backgrounds that's actually supporting buying these products, because we'll download something in a heartbeat. So if we're downloading and getting, and we're the ones who came up with the, burners and going out and mixtapes and stuff like that. So I'm asking you, who you think is actually buying and making J. Cole the #1 rap album in the United States, if we are not necessarily buying the CDs from
No, there's a lot of us that's buying, J. Cole. I'm familiar with Tech Nine, Absol. I haven't heard his album yet, but I heard it was pretty dope. But I'm a music head, so I'm gonna listen to it all.
Right.
Just kind of being around the youth, and in and out of, in the hood, you just, the cars going past, you're hearing a lot of negativity, and the youth are just talking about certain artists, and I'm seeing people that's aspiring artists in the hood. They're trying to pattern themselves off that artist that's, may have a violent slant, or, shoot 'em up slant or whatever. So, but is that artist selling outside of the hood like that? Are they really successful? Can they go on tour like that, around the globe? Or are they just kind of, hood rich or whatever? So I guess that's a question I'm posing, because we have some of the artists he mentioned. What's some of these artists' name?
Chief Keef.
The Yachis and 21 Savage and what's the other one?
Yeah, Lil Yachty, all the littles, man. They got little in front of their name.
So it seems to me that's who
all the mumble
they're
rappers
trying to push on our youth.
The mumble rappers.
They're trying to push the mumble rappers on our youth.
They definitely doing
that. And they're pushing the artists who have lyrics and have quality music towards the other ethnicities more. So if I go see Ali Shaheed Muhammad, come from a classic group like A Tribe Called Quest, I go up there, it's like all Caucasians. It's like me and like 3 or 4 other brothers and sisters, or I saw KRS-One and Rakim way up north one time. I didn't even know they were in Chicago, and none of my friends know. I'm like, so who do they advertise this to? I go up there,
Well, I think what I'm getting, and I feel you. I know exactly what you're speaking about.
So this music is creating a potential generation of upcoming zombies.
Well, it's not just it's across the board is what I was getting at. It's across the board where yes, when those folks come into town and they up north, who is bringing them here? It's usually Caucasian or Asian persuasions that's actually bringing it here.
So they're marketing to that crowd.
Well, it's more. I think what happens is that if the hood certifies somebody, it's different from the white folks certifying them. It's like initially, if you hood certified, then the white folks and all other cultures gonna come by default, and then they maintain that individual afterwards. So,
what I'll say a little bit too, and not because you just made me think about the power of energy, though. Like I respect and love artists like Nas and J. Cole and the Kendricks, but I gotta say though, they really appeal to the intellectuals, to us, because they're very lyrical, right? It make you go into deep thoughts to a certain extent.
I don't know. I mean,
I'm
Rakim appealed to the hood. He appealed to the hood. He sold.
My perspective.
When Rakim was out, he sold millions to the hood and around the world.
I got quite a few friends that will say that J. Cole, even though they respect him, think he's one of the greatest artists that's out, they'll say his album will sometimes put you to sleep. Or you got to be in a certain mind frame because it can be boring, because he's just talking about a lot of positive things.
But you have hood artists that are also intellectual. So
yeah, you do.
You don't have to be a dummy.
No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is,
you can have an edge.
It's a power in the ignorance, is what I'm saying. Meaning you can take a 2 Chainz or a Ray Shrummer. You could take these turn up rappers who they give you a whole bunch of energy. Like when I look at the hood, a lot of the hood rappers, to me that really get certified with the hood, a lot of them also have a lot of energy associated with them too, to a certain extent. Even if I look at the Young Jeezys, I look at even the Yo Gottis, like their tracks, they use really hype tracks that appeal to a lower frequency with the 808 kick drums.
And as soon as Jeezy started talking about something, it's like his whatever energy he was dealing. Once the album came out, had a little political slant on it.
Yeah, it didn't sell really good. It didn't sell good once he started talking about something positive.
He said the people up at the company were upset with him. You know, so did they give it the push that it could have gotten? You know, because if you a Young Jeezy fan, you're a fan. You know, because I heard the album was pretty good. You know,
and what I'm saying is if we're creating our own media and we're creating our platforms as owners and stuff, why don't we take cues from the energy? Is what I'm saying. Meaning, if we know that people like some of the ratchetness and stuff like that, just like when you want to get your kid to eat vegetables, you mix some candy or some sugar or something with the vegetables.
I don't think that people like the ratchet stuff as much as we believe.
I don't think so either.
So we've been sold that dream.
I'm speaking from the perspective of a person who loves a lot of ratchet music, certain types, not all of it.
Because I'm going to the concert,
and I'm around a lot of crowds.
Guys performing.
I'm around a lot of crowds where it gets turned up, and it ain't even quote on ratchet. Maybe that's the bad word.
What's the club out there that they have some of the artists are used to, the turn up artists he talking about?
What's that?
Out in the suburbs.
Like I went to.
Adriana's right.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing these cats at the in 3,000, 5,000 seat venues. I'm not seeing them. You know, they might be at this little club out here in the suburbs. You know, I'm not seeing them going on major tours or whatever like that. You know, so.
But what you are seeing though is you are seeing the people driving past, and you hearing what a lot of music you hear people playing, and you are seeing a lot of the shorties too in the hood telling you who some of them the how big the little yachties and because they selling out right now.
This is what's being presented to them though. That's the only reason. So they're only getting this shoved down their throats. This is what's getting presented to them. They don't have alternatives. Because there's a couple of youngsters who I put on certain type of music. They after a while they stopped listening to what they were listening to.
Some of them.
You know, I've even had asshole classrooms. Who do you really like? Do you like Lil such and such? No, we don't like him. No, I don't know why even. And you know, I mean, these are like we're teenagers. So that's kind of what made me think, dude. Are they really trying to make us believe this is what our people want to hear, you know, all the time? You know,
not to mention that's the only thing that they're generally playing on the radios anyway.
Right, so they're being programmed from the radio.
And then the outlets like Breakfast Club, they're supporting that because they want the numbers based off of being tagging along on that platform of the media. Meaning, like if you notice that when somebody's coming out with a CD. They go through a series of places that they go to market it, and it's usually the Breakfast Club, it's those GCI when they come here, and those are what some young listeners are privy to because they may not have computers. They just listen to the radio, and then now they take their radio and then they may cross-reference that name with YouTube and start looking at the video.
So basically, you're saying we're going to listen to whoever they advertise for us to listen to.
Absolutely.
So if the young cats, they listen to the radio or checking out some of these things that's being pushed from a social media standpoint, that's what they're going to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
so it goes
if you grew up thinking McDonald's and Burger King were the only two places to get hamburgers, when you're thinking about a hamburger, you're going to get you McDonald's or Burger King. Mm-hmm. You know, so.
But at some point, because I agree with you, I'm not disagreeing, but at some point, you got to take. Again, I'm going back to the energy. Like I saw a guy, it was a father on social media. I think he was Instagram or something. It was a video that went kind of viral where he was talking to his son about whooping his ass if he didn't do right in school. But he had made it into a rap. And it kind of was like a trap type of rap. Mm-hmm. But it was actually a cold rap. And he was just telling his son, like, I'm going to whoop your ass if you don't do good in school.
New Genesis, Maine. What up?
But yeah, definitely. What up to all the listeners? Definitely, if you got questions, make sure y'all post the questions.
New Genesis Maine is a dope artist out of Chicago, so check him out.
So my thing is, if we know, like, the people that are easily programmed, and the way that you program a nation is by first targeting the children. If you can get the children and you get them by the time they're 4 to 8 years old, you got them. They going if you make them think they like feed them cheeseburgers, they gonna like cheeseburgers when they 80. It's gonna still be somewhat in that DNA
because it's programmed in your subconscious mind.
So what I'm saying is, you either the world is creating a spell on you, or you create a spell on the world.
And I think that's what it was in the beginning with hip hop. We were creating a spell on the world. Now they took it and they're trying to create a spell back on us.
So what I'm saying, we can flip the energy by getting in tune with what the spells are, and then being able to like alchemists, then be able to flip them spells and use them spells, and to support whatever agenda that we want to support. Now it's gonna be hard if you don't have the marketing dollars, because it definitely is about exposure and repetition. But all I'm saying is,
we back to economic base.
But I bring this up,
media outlets,
because we have a documentary that we're working on right now where we're doing this, which is Nation of Hustlers. And in that documentary, again, I mean, when we talk about hustling, to a certain extent, we are appealing to some of the street things and some of the things that some people might consider to be non-mainstream, but it's still a very positive message, because everything we're talking about in the documentary, we're going to really be breaking down media, we're going to be breaking down entrepreneurship, and how the hustlers were actually the backbones of many of these communities, and looked at in a positive way and not negative.
Shout out to Charles McKeever for, and Susan Reed too. Thank you for supporting us.
Yeah, shout out to Charles. Shout out to you. But yeah, it's really powerful. You know what's something I'm looking at too is have y'all noticed, like, you go to the gas stations in the hood, have y'all ever noticed they have those like those newspapers, and right on it you have like mug shots.
You.
It show you like 12
one of you
people that was arrested,
and one of them. 12 of you and one of them. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Those mug shot pictures of the guy. I'm like, okay. Brother. Other.
Have you ever seen some?
Who's financing that? There's not anyone black putting money behind that. So who's putting money behind that? Not us.
Well,
why are they putting money behind it?
And that's
to justify some of the shit they doing,
and then to make you afraid to even when you see your brother, to make you walk.
So who's putting money behind that ratchetness? Who's putting money behind some of the ratchet music?
That's grassroots though, man. That's still grassroots marketing.
Right.
It's something that
who's financing the mumble rappers? That's what I want to know. Go ahead.
We know who financing.
Well, we know who financing. We just did that in the first slide when we showed you the Leo Cohen's, because Leo Cohen is working with Young Thug right now, which is one of the biggest ratchet, controversial rappers who I like, actually.
I challenge anybody, and this is whether you're famous or not, to be the author of your thoughts. Just continue to think about what you're doing while you're doing it, and let's not put so much energy into these stars as being your go-to place to get your thoughts from. And what happens is that...
What about the children? They don't have a child wouldn't know what you just said. So they're being programmed. And by the time somebody like you get to them, they got all these other thoughts in their head.
Well, I think that goes to...
They're watching 9 hours of television or media a day. Their mother or father might say hi to them in the morning at breakfast or whatever. They on their way to school. They're in school, listening to their peers, their friends, and they're watching TV after school. And their mother, father, or whoever they're living with might say one or two things to them at night. So who's really programming them?
Well, I think the powerful thing about that is the age we live in. Anybody can create media really cheap, really easy. I mean, look at the memes, how some of these memes go viral. Of course, a lot of them are negative, right? But what I'm saying is, you got a lot of young people. I went to Columbia College. I went to the Performing Arts School, right? I worked at IADT. So I'm seeing so many people, young people, that are creating their own media easily with no education. You can learn anything on YouTube. So I think this is a great opportunity for if you like media, you like making videos, we can start, making our own stuff. Now, it may not go viral immediately, but that's a start. Like, what are you creating?
We have to do that because nobody's gonna tell our story like us. It's gotten to the point where get off the pot. If you're not gonna make your own shit, somebody else is gonna narrate what the hell is going on. And if they narrating what's going on, then you have the possibilities of changing your community, your culture, your people's mind without your say-so. So whether it's the collateral marketing that we do, the newspapers, remember we used to have so many more newspapers than we have right now. The Defender, we used to have Bean Soup Times, used to still, all these little media, collateral media outlets, they're vanishing. They're going away. So we have to still take the old way of doing things and some of the new technology and bridge the gap between, because although most people are saying that we have to change the youth, I still don't count out adults and the seniors and the baby boomers.
Take a lot of energy.
Taking a lot of energy and still not putting energy toward it is two different things. So we have to meet them in the middle. And meeting them in the middle is understanding the psychological warfare that they're playing on us when it comes to the media outlets. That is both newspaper, print, that's the internet, that's TV, that's commercials, that's any advertisement out here, or you have to be open to understanding what's the backdrop behind it? Who's actually putting it out? Like you keep making mention.
Well, speaking of the adults, I know when I was in business, Jim Rohn, when I was doing MLM, he said you can. What did he say? He said you can walk with. He said you can carry one person on your back,